Okay, now I show you the last game from Bled 1931 of this book about Geza Maroczy, a famous Hungarian chess player. This is game 169 of this book, Maroczy versus Nimzovic. It was played in Bled, a city in Slovenia now, September 16, 1931. Maroczy plays with 1 e4 and Nimzovic starts with c6. This is the Caro-Kann defense. d4, d5, e takes and c takes, right? Bishop d3, knight c6 and c3, knight f6. In that time it seems that they didn't play this move which would prevent white from playing bishop f4. Bishop f4, bishop g4 and queen b3. This is a typical move of the queen once you are opening the diagonal and once you move your bishop, because this is weak, right? So Maroczy makes a comment here saying that maybe this was better because this move clearly looks for complication. Knight a5, queen a4 and bishop d7, queen c2 and queen b6, knight d2. And it seems that in 1926 there was another game in which Maroczy was playing against Capablanca and played this move, knight f3. But he lost against Capablanca, so maybe this is the reason why now he plays knight d2. However, obviously I didn't see the game played in 1926. Maybe we can look for it right now because this book could have it. Let's see if it's there. Let me pause the video. Okay, I checked the book. There is one game against Capablanca. It's game 90. It was played in San Sebastian 1911, but that game is a French defense, so clearly not the game that they mention in this book. Notice that also in that San Sebastian 1911, I don't think Maroczy did well, so it's kind of interesting because we are speaking of like 20 years before, but yet you can see here that out of 15 players, Maroczy was number 11, so clearly he didn't play very well. And maybe he wasn't that old in the time, I don't know. In any case, let's return to our game and let's see what happened after knight d2. Okay? Bishop b5. White cannot avoid the bishop exchange in the main line either. At least he now gains a few tempi and has the opportunity to get his knight to e5. Let's see. Knight gf3. Bishop takes d3. Queen takes d3. e6. Now, ask yourself why black didn't play queen takes b2, okay? because this is a typical thing that happen in the opening. Some pawns are poisoned, and in this case queen takes b2 would be a mistake. Let me show you why. However, I advise you to pause the video, try to find it out for yourself, like in a real tournament game. Then it doesn't matter if you don't find out the right continuation, because honestly it's the exercise that is important, that will make you grow as a player. Okay, rook b1, queen takes a2, and now we have castle, and practically black, it says here, has to lose the knight. Okay, why black has to lose the knight? I think it's a fair question, right? Let's say that he goes back here. What would you play as white? Probably you can play rook takes b7, because the next move is this, and then there is this. You understand? And it becomes a problem. So now let's return back to the game after that we have seen this continuation. And yes, black may have a pawn advantage, but again, think about the fact that black is playing with two pieces out of the game, because these are not in the game, while here you can see all the white pieces are in the game. This means that black is playing with a -8, okay? He's losing because he doesn't have a rook and a bishop, and who knows when they will actually go back into the game. And that's a possibility. Then of course there are other possibilities. Maybe there is a way to trap that queen, no? Because instead of taking the pawn, like we saw here, maybe he can play something like that. Where does he go? He goes here, track, and that is the problem, right? So this is a possibility. I didn't analyze with a computer. I'm sure for those who want to check their homework, the computer will be the best, because it immediately calculates all the possibilities. Notice that it cannot go there because there is still this, so it's a kind of problem. It's a kind of problem. So yeah, as I said also, it's a kind of poison pawn, but the point I was trying to make is white has all the forces out, black still has not finished to develop, and that's really bad, right? Because you're going to lose the game at a certain point. Okay, let's return back to the position from which we analyze this. Okay, so we were here. Instead of queen takes b2, that is a mistake, black played e6. After all, black is Nintsovich, famous Nintsovich that won many tournaments and that wrote some important chess books that I read also today. So after e6, castle. Again, as you can see, that pawn is untouchable. Bishop e7, rook a b1. At this point, yes, you need to defend it because the king is going to castle and escape. But it's possible that there was a better move. Instead of rook b1, maybe b4 was a better move. Why? Because you gain space and you start to have also a possible outpost. So this is another possibility, okay? After rook a b1 there was rook c8, knight e5 and knight h5. Obviously black is scared to castle right away because white would have a strong attack on that side. Queen f3, knight takes f4, queen takes f4, and f6. Knight e f3, castle, queen g4, threatening this obviously. Knight c4. Probably it was better to try to defend the pawn e6 since to have a queen to defend a pawn seems a little too much, right? Okay, let's see what was played. Knight takes c4, rook takes c4, rook b e1, rook c6. So as you can see, this pawn is more important than that pawn, okay? Rook e2, rook e8, rook f e1, and bishop f8. Obviously everybody is piling up against e6, but black is able to defend. And now h4. It seems there was a collection of games from 1931 and 1942, or a recollection. In the year it's interesting to read it, right? Because so we discover the world of chess from 1931. Here my opponent offered me a draw by asking me if I was playing for a win. I turned down the draw offer angrily because I consider my position to be much better, and trying to prove this, I rush matters. Thus my opponent achieved his goal with his draw offer. According to FIDE rules, you cannot offer a draw before move 30, and this rule should be made compulsory in all tournaments because it is wrong to disturb and annoy your opponent by repeatedly offering a draw. So from here we discover that maybe Nintsovich was nagging him. It's unlikely that anyone would classify the text move as a drawing attempt. Imagine my surprise when my opponent meekly asked me if I'm playing for a win. My answer may have sounded a little harsh, but it is certain that my cunning opponent had achieved his goal, managed to upset me, and did not give my next move sufficient thought. As a competitor, you have to be prepared for anything these days. An opponent's inquiries, questions, when you are deeply engrossed in recalculating plans, the loud and repetitive shushing of spectators, etc. All may be a deliberate distraction, but should a player think that his opponent has forgotten about proper etiquette? Okay, so it seems that the etiquette probably was to offer the draw after 7 moves. This is a, okay, 6 move, this is move 24, he said that move 30, that's a possibility. Okay, queen c7, a clever move which eventually leads to an advantage. I had only calculated queen a6, and this is interesting because in fact in tournaments we only calculate one move and we don't calculate others, so that's kind of bad. h5, and this pawn is starting to become a thorn in black's side. b5, knight h4. White has to be careful not to let himself become worse here. It is hard to decide whether a3 and a5 was better. Obviously it's calculating if to try to block the activity on the queen side before returning to the king side. So that is rationale here. Let's see what happens, okay? Before g3, b takes c3, b takes c3, and queen f7. Now notice, obviously he didn't take on c3 because otherwise e6 would fall, that's a fact. And now white needs to defend c3 because there is no possibility to attack there and win, right? a5, queen e2, very good, rook e c8, and knight g2. So the problem is that also if you take here, e will take c3, okay? So that's a kind of problem. But now e takes c3, rook takes c3, rook takes e6, and after rook 3 c4 they agree to a draw. Ninzovich offered a draw simultaneously with a move, which I accepted rather reluctantly. I should have not done that because, and here now it shows a variation. I'm sorry, the thing is, why did you accept the draw? I don't know. You're not obliged. However, it's true that some opponents nag us with these draw offers, and that really make you lose concentration, and so maybe Maroczy should have worked on that psychological side of the game. So if you are interested in this player from the past, the life and games of Geza Maroczy, consider to take this book. It's a nice hardcover book. I like the games, I like the stories, and so I hope you will enjoy them too.